It's already March 31st. Oh my goodness. Today we're going to talk about the best and worst movies in March, and as always, like I do every single month, I'm going to be placing these films on tiers, and at the end of the video, we're going to rank them from my least favorite to most favorite. These are March originals, whether it be Netflix coming to theaters, and we actually had some movies that dropped in theaters this month. We're on the right track. I need you guys in the comments down below. What was your favorite movie in the month of March? Were there some films that I didn't see? I did do South by Southwest this month. Will not be including any of those. This is only like wide releases, but I actually ended up seeing a ton of movies, but we're going to focus on these. And as always, if you guys enjoy this video, you want to support this channel, be sure to drop that thumbs up down below to help get this video out there. And we're going to keep doing this series because it is so much fun to do. But here we go. It's a tier list. By the way, I'm working on a Harry Potter tier list, so we're going to get that out this month. All right. I love these tier lists. They're always so much fun. You know what else was fun and just shocked me with how much I enjoyed it? A movie called Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. And we're actually going to start this thing off strong, putting this film on the great tier. And a lot of people are going to see this trailer and think, well, it's John Wick. Actually, one of the writers of John Wick wrote this film. So yeah, it's very similar, and there are aspects of it that almost feel satirical at times, but you look at what this film did, the tone that it sticks to, separating itself from a John Wick, but still giving us these action-packed moments featuring our favorite from Better Call Saul that no one expected he could pull off or accomplish. He nailed it. Not only did he nail it, but there's some people in the supporting cast, and again, I don't want to spoil the movie where it goes, but there's one action scene in particular that I know longtime fans of that actor, they are going to love the way this movie turns out. And it's familiar. Again, I could have maybe had more investment with some of these subplots, but overall, nobody knows exactly what it is. That's a reoccurring theme you're going to see in this tier list. Movies that are very self-aware, and I think this film is maybe the shining example of that. The action scenes, incredible. The choreography, almost perfect. And Nobody is the shock of the year so far. One of my absolute favorites. And we're going to stick with a similar theme here. Directed by Joe Carnahan, a movie called Boss Level, dropped on Hulu in March, and this is a film that is full on in the know as to the kind of movie it needs to be, and I actually had a really good time with it. Not shocked at all because I love Joe Carnahan, but what was a little bit shocking about it was the fact that you have yet another time loop movie. Last year, Palm Springs. This year, The Map of Tiny Perfect Things. Actually, two films that I liked. You know how I feel about Palm Springs. So I'm thinking, you know, even though it's a very familiar trope, as long as they do something at least a little bit different or deliver on the action or entertainment, then I'll have a good time. And that's what they did. I could have used a bit more from some of the characters. Frank Grillo is really good in the role, even though his character is a bit cliche. But the entire way that the movie progresses and turns out, it almost goes exactly how you need it to go, to just sit down, turn your brain off, and have a great time with it. To the point to where you're just like, am I watching Rob Gronkowski fire a machine gun out of a helicopter? It's ridiculous, but it's super fun. And I think Boss Level, again, along the same lines as Nobody, is a massive surprise. 2021 has really delivered on action. This month specifically, and this is just another shining example of a film that you can have fun with. Watch it. It's on Hulu right now, but don't expect too much plot. And Chaos Walking. Now, Chaos Walking was exciting because you have Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland, obviously, but this is also based off of source material that is well beloved by a lot of people. I was interested to see where this was going to go, but unfortunately, it just didn't quite come together, at least in the way it intended. I know a lot of people said this movie was bad. I saw some of the reviews, and they were just scathing. And I'm sitting back thinking, no, it wasn't. Obviously, I didn't even think it was good, but there is at least something there that keeps it maybe more engaging than I expected going in. The idea of showing what these individuals' thoughts are out loud and hearing them talk without them actually talking, that's a cool idea. I was fearful that it would be a bit annoying at times, but it wasn't. The thing about this film that hurt it was the predictability and just the fact that it doesn't really go anywhere interesting in the third act. It just kind of follows that conventional formula. Holland is good. Daisy Ridley is good. I like their chemistry, but I just felt like the plot needed work and the story progression wasn't near as interesting as they thought it was going to be. So not bad, in my opinion, but not a film that I was overall impressed with. And then coming to America, and this is just proof that comedy is the most subjective thing you could possibly imagine, because while I'm going to put it on the meh tier, it's actually really close to the okay tier because there were some really good things in here. I know a lot of people that genuinely loved this film. My friend Dave Lee on YouTube, he thoroughly enjoyed it, gave it a high score, and I can see it. I can absolutely see it because Eddie Murphy, I mean, really the entire cast, but we're looking at Eddie Murphy here, the fact that he is returning to form, in my opinion, playing multiple characters, doing what he does best, just giving us a character for a lot of fans of the original that we've been looking forward to for so long, returning to the big screen or the small screen on Amazon Prime. Now, does it deliver in terms of story? In my opinion, it does not. It is essentially hitting the same beats as the first, just in a different way. I wanted more from that. I also didn't laugh as much as maybe I wanted to, but again, there are funny moments, funny parts, and I do think fans of the original will at least get something out of it. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite get there. SpongeBob, Sponge on the Run, bald and brash. Let's go ahead and throw this on the meh tier. And this film actually got off to a great start. I was thrown back into the world that I knew and loved, grew up with. The first, 6 to 8 seasons of SpongeBob at least were really, really good. Slowly started to decline. I just wasn't a fan of what we got after that. And I think a lot of people with nostalgia feel the same way. There are a lot of people, though, with nostalgia for the newer seasons, and they will claim that it's really good. And I understand that. Absolutely. It all comes down to what you grew up with and the style that you like. We got a lot of that style in the first 2 acts. Unfortunately, it continued on. We get into the 3rd act, and it just kind of fell apart for me. It became a bit too on the nose with pushing and promoting Camp Coral. There were certain things about the story that I didn't love. There's a dance scene at the end. Just like, we're going the same route as a lot of these animated films. So that was unfortunate. I don't think it's bad because it does so much for the SpongeBob character, and I love these characters. I can't help that. But SpongeBob, this film in particular, didn't quite do it come together for me. But Keanu Reeves was really good in this movie. It's on Paramount Plus right now. Yes, day. No, day. We're going to put this on the bad tier. Look, it's fine. I love Jennifer Garner. I love Edgar Ramirez. Jenna Ortega is awesome. She's in another film that I saw at South by Southwest that we will talk about eventually. That was just incredible. But, it's a film where, it's quirky comedy. You have the tropes that all of these family movies hit. The adults agree to say yes to almost everything that these kids tell them to do. But there were a lot of things about the relationship between the kids and the adults, the fact that they were kind of, taking advantage of certain things that just kind of, didn't really work for me. And it's a film that just slowly started to frustrate me a bit more as we went along because we were getting some cute moments every now and then. And it understands that it's not going to try to go overboard with giving us a competent and cohesive plot with incredible characters. No, it's a family film. And I do think it's going to work for a lot of families. It's just the frustrations within the writing and certain lines, and I'm just like, come on, you're going to do that? You're going to fall into that trope with this kind of movie? It's not one that I think a lot of people are going to think is bad. You're just going to watch and be like, it's cute for the kids. And that's fine. But for me, this didn't work with what it was trying to do, but it's on Netflix if you want to check it out. I have already seen the Snyder Cut twice, moving into 3 times, because I keep getting asked to watch it with different people. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Let's throw this on the great tier. You guys know how much I really enjoyed this movie, and it's such a drastic 180 compared to that first Justice League film. I mean, I never in a million years imagined this would be on my great tier. And that's not a detriment against Zack Snyder or against these characters. I grew up with Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. As a kid, I was very much a DC over Marvel kid because I was reading these comics and graphic novels. But then you get that first film and a lot of elements of this universe as a whole, and you're just frustrated. It's like, why can't they be or do what they're trying to be or do? This movie cemented the fact that I want to see more from this universe. And at this point, we just don't know. We don't know if they're going to do it. They're saying no. All the fans are saying yes. Who knows if they're going to go down that path? But I am very much on board because I thought this movie was great. I thought it was great the first time, great the second time, and actually the pacing issues didn't bother me as much the second time, and every decision is better, barring maybe one element of the music whenever Wonder Woman comes on screen that started to get on my nerves, but everything else is just It's incredible. I can't believe this movie was as great as it was. Zack Snyder's Justice League works. It's not the light tone that maybe we're used to with superhero films, but it doesn't need to be. The tone is perfect, and the character development is there, and I need to shut up. I could talk about this all day. Cosmic sin. It's a cosmic sin to talk about this movie. Let's throw this on the awful tier. Bruce Willis, I'm sorry. Not really. Frank Grillo, I'm sorry. You were in boss level. At least boss level made up for the just horrid nature of this film. This is terrible. Cosmic Sin was awful. It is, like this B-level movie. Clearly, they couldn't get a lot of competent actors, but then you get Bruce Willis and Frank Grillo, and it's kind of the same guy that's been doing these types of movies with Bruce Willis. And I don't know if he owes him money or something, but he keeps coming back and keeps doing. Bruce Willis doesn't care. You can tell he doesn't care. The first second you see him on screen, the only one who's trying here is Frank Grillo. Actually, I think some of the supporting actors are trying. That doesn't mean they're good. Frank Grillo is doing everything he can to save this sci-fi, fantasy, space, what they claim to be epic with, zombie. It's got everything. Let's throw everything at the fire and see what happens. And they did it. They tried to do it. You don't care about any of the characters. They're spouting out these ridiculous one-liners every single scene. And it almost becomes a joke. I know a lot of you haven't heard of this, but if you see Cosmic Sin, I actually wrote a review on Letterboxd, but instead of writing the review, I just wrote down things that I could have bought for $7 instead of this movie. Yeah. Bad trip. Again, comedy is subjective. It's absolutely subjective, and not everyone's going to respond to this brand or style. And who knows, maybe I've seen a lot of people that loved Bad Grandpa, that loved Jackass, or even Borat. It's very different than Borat, but it's this style of going and pranking people in public and trying to create a plot around it. I've seen people that love those films, hated this movie. I don't get that. Personally, I thought this was really funny. I thought Eric Andre was hilarious in this movie. I love the fact that they don't focus too much on the plot. When they try to give us plot, there's still a prank within that plot. So when we get films like this, I think spending too much time with an actual script or characters that they create, if it's not compelling, I mean, it was very compelling in Borat, but if it's not compelling like the Impractical Jokers movie, I'm sitting back going, I just want to go back to the pranks. And the pranks in the Impractical Jokers movie were incredible. This film, thankfully, takes what could have been the idea of creating a story around this and saying, instead of just creating this story and spending all the time on that story, we're going to do our thing while still giving you story. And that was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant because you don't care about that as much. You like the idea that they're committing to the fact that they're going on this road trip. He's falling in love. But there's some crazy things, and I encourage all of you to at least give this a try. If you're into that style, listen, raunchy humor, it's not for everyone, and sometimes it's not for me, but for some reason, I laughed a lot. And what is the number one goal of a comedy? It is to make you laugh, not to be a technical masterpiece, and that's exactly what happened here. So I'm going to put Bad Trip on the good tier. We're going to move through these next few fairly quickly. This one is called Paper Lives in the United States. I'm going to throw it on the okay tier. On the streets of Istanbul, you have a worker who meets this small boy, kind of takes him under his wing, and he confronts his own traumatic childhood while learning a lot about this boy. And it's one of those, like, uplifting movies where this guy, who does have anger problems, this guy is doing everything he can to protect this boy and to keep him out of trouble. And then you start to realize what the actual story's about. And it did affect me emotionally. I've seen a lot of people that didn't like this film because it is very over dramatic, but apparently movies from this country tend to go in that direction. It's almost this different style of filmmaking, and that's one of the beautiful things, in my opinion, about these streaming services, is we can go and watch these movies and see different kinds of and styles of filmmaking that we're not used to. And even though some people see this as cheesy, and I can definitely see that, that's why it's only on the okay tier, I still responded to the emotion from it. I liked the cinematography quite a bit. I think the music was a big issue throughout the film. It kind of takes you out of it, but the overall story, and at least the shock factor of the end, it kind of worked for me. So if you want to check out a movie that's very different, go watch Paper Lives, but I got a little bit out of it, but not a lot. Deadly Illusions. We're going to put this on the awful tier, because it's woof. Yep, this is not, it's not good, Bob. It's not good at all. This was bad. It's one of those that you're just shocked with how much it is almost a parody of itself. But the problem is it tries to be so serious at times. I mean, it is full on like we are this emotional, but it comes across as cheesy. Not in the way that Paper Lives did. In more of the way that, feels like a full-on soap opera. But the acting is not good. It's all about this woman who takes in this caretaker, this housekeeper, but there are more hostile intentions with certain goals of certain characters, and let's try not to spoil it, but who cares, really? She's starting to realize that maybe this person isn't what she said she was, but she's also feeling these feelings that she wasn't expecting to feel. Is not good. And then the way it turns out in the third act, it really did, it was the cheesiest thing I've seen in a long time. That's why I believe right now it may be the worst movie of the year. So, congrats. Sentinelle. Sentinelle? No, it's Sentinelle. We're going to put this on the bad tier. Transferred home after a traumatizing combat mission, a highly trained French soldier uses her lethal skills to hunt down the man who hurt her sister. I had to read that off of my phone because I couldn't remember what the movie was about. I promise I watched it. It just didn't quite do it for me. It tries to be, it's almost like Taken, right? It's the same kind of story, except this person comes from different circumstances. She has a very particular set of skills, and I was okay with the cinematography. I thought it was interesting when it came to the fight scenes, but the emotional resonance towards this character, and really toward the story in general, it wasn't there. I was kind of void of all emotions when it came to this story. And when you're watching something like that, it's almost just this empty feeling. Action's happening, and the action's cool, but doesn't really matter if you're not engaged in the story. And the answer is no, and that's why it's on the bad tier. It's starting to come back to me. I kind of remember it now. Not going to watch it again. How about Raya and the Last Dragon? We're going to put that on... you know what? This is actually closer than it should be. But we're going to throw this on the great tier because I think it does just enough to set itself slightly above that good tier. This movie was so much fun. The world and world building of an Avatar: The Last Airbender combined with the Disney tropes that sometimes feel a bit cliche. And that's what almost kept it on the good tier. And it did take me about 20 minutes to really get on board with the story. But once we enter this Mad Max world, almost, in a Disney movie. It's crazy. I was really on board. I don't think the humor quite worked as well as it wanted to throughout the film, but I do think it's going to work for its intended audience, and that is kids and families, and I think you're just going to have a great time with this movie. Great characters, great voice cast. I thought Kelly Marie Tran was really, really good in the lead role. Obviously, Awkwafina is going to crush it because she always crushes it, but this was a really impressive effort from Disney. And the more I watched it, the more on board with the story I was getting. And by the end, I actually felt quite a bit of emotion. A lot of people said they didn't really miss the music, like your Moanas and your Tangles. I still like that within a Disney movie, right? So part of me was like, oh, we could have had music here and there, but, I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea. Regardless, Raya and the Last Dragon worked extremely well. And finally, we have Godzilla vs. Kong. Monkey versus lizard. I know, it's an ape, but monkey is funny. So we're going to put this on the good tier, which is even surprising me because, as a whole, I think the MonsterVerse has been just a bit up and down for me. We've had some okay human stories, but in those films, we didn't really see the creatures, the monsters that much. Then we get amazing fights, but the human stories just fall completely flat. And in this film, we're unfortunately carrying on that trope of giving us human stories that we don't really care about, and that's what keeps it from being out of the good tier. But then we get into the giant battles and the technical magic in this film. I mean, it is phenomenal with how good this CGI is. I have never seen CGI this impressive in terms of seeing creatures that big fight each other. A lot of these films in this MonsterVerse so far, the fight scenes like this, they take place in the dark, barring maybe a Kong Skull Island. In this film, even when it is at nighttime, we get these illuminated lights just lighting up our characters as they take each other down. But then we get fights in the daytime, and then we travel to a certain place in the world. I won't spoil what that is, but that gave us the opportunity to get some just grand and incredible visuals, and visually this film is striking. I mean, if this doesn't get nominated for special effects at the Oscars, I mean, y'all gonna see me throw a fit almost as much as I did when Tenet didn't get a Best Score nomination. But this is just impressive, and those action scenes, from the camera placement during the action scenes, one or two questionable shots I think a lot of people aren't going to love, but I was still like, this is different, and it's really cool. To what we get in that third act between these two characters, Kong being explored, I think, a lot more than Godzilla, but still Godzilla gets his moments, and it was just awesome. It was so much fun. And I will keep coming back to the fact that I really didn't love the human stories. I mean, there's a bit of heart with one character who communicates with Kong, and then you have the podcaster who I thought was really funny. But overall, that part of the movie, okay. But what are we watching this for? We're watching this for Kong versus Godzilla. And that's exactly what we get. And now it comes time to rank these films. By the way, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter at @TheBurkinator, I am tweeting out my thoughts on movies early, and drop your thumbs up if you thought March was actually a pretty impressive month for movies. Deadly Illusions, we're going to keep that right there. Just a hair below Cosmic Sin, even though I gave them both a 10%. Congratulations. That row looks good as well. Sentinelle, followed by Yes Day. We're going to keep Spongebob on that tier, but we're actually going to put Gas Walking below that. Coming to America looks good right there, followed by Paper Lives. Now the good tier. Godzilla vs. Kong looks good in that 6th spot. Coming in at number 5 is barely, and I'm talking by a hair, Boss Level. I just got so much enjoyment out of Bad Trip. Couldn't believe how much. We're going to keep Raya and The Last Dragon in the 3 spot, followed by Nobody at number 2, which means unbelievable. Zack Snyder's Justice League is my number 1 movie in March in terms of new releases. Now, did I see some movies at South by Southwest again? Yes, and there are some things that maybe we'll talk about coming this month. But Justice League, I can't believe. And maybe you disagree. Maybe you have the exact same list. That would be impressive. Let me know. What was your favorite movie in March? What was your least favorite film? And is there a movie that you saw that I need to see and add to my Letterboxd? Again, you guys the best. You're the reason I keep doing these monthly series. They are so much fun to do. And stay tuned, because we have some Netflix reviews coming this week. We have some very special videos. And like I said, I'm working on that Harry Potter tier list. We're going to do that. It's going to be an April special. And it's going to be fun. I'll be seeing you very soon.